2 years later, Amnon and Tamar's case had been forgotten even among the family members. About that time, Absalom had a great feast at his ranch. It was a sheep-shearing party, and in Israel, livestock was a major industry. So the shearing day was a day of joy for all. Absalom invited all the brothers, and Amnon also joined the party. Without hesitation, after 2 years of not responding to the incident, Absalom had not expressed any concern about his sister's troubles until now, but he took this opportunity to take revenge on his half-brother without feeling guilty at all, and ordered his subordinates to take his brother's life. When Amnon was murdered, the other princes went home in fear, and David was told that Absalom had killed all the princes, so he tore his clothes and wailed. However, the news that all the princes were dead was corrected, and David found out later that everyone was safe except for Amnon. After killing Amnon, Absalom fled to his maternal grandfather, King Talmai of Geshur, and began a 3-year fugitive life. It had been 3 years since Absalom had fled Jerusalem. Father David should have caught Absalom and punished him, but the problem was that he could not because he knew the cause of Amnon's death. In addition, David knew that Absalom would be the next heir to the throne after the death of the first prince to succeed him, so he kept his son Absalom in his heart. Also in Israel at that time, there was a law in which a man who raped a virgin would be stoned to death, but Amnon was not punished at all, so Absalom's actions were carried out in place of the law. In this way, the first prince died, and the next prince was living in refuge. So Joab, the nephew of King David, and the second man of Israel came out. He called the woman, who disguised herself as a widow, sent her to David, and made her act. The woman said that she had 2 children, they had fought, and one had killed the other. Because of that, she said, "People say that there is a murderer in our town, and try to kill the murderer, but I cannot live without my son." After seeing her acting like this, David noticed that Joab had sent her, and ordered that Absalom, who had left the house, be brought to him. Joab went that way to Geshur and told Absalom that David missed him, and Absalom packed his belongings and returned to Jerusalem. But David, who had the desire to bring back his son, said that Absalom was coming back, and took measures not to see him for a while. And Absalom stayed in Jerusalem but was not allowed to enter the palace. The fact that a member of the royal family was not permitted to enter the palace caused the prince to lose face socially, at the same time treat him as a criminal. David was going to have his son show some signs of remorse for the murder of his half-brother and then let him into the palace. However, from Absalom's point of view, when he was asked to come to Jerusalem, preventing him from entering the palace was a poor treatment, and his displeasure only grew. 2 years after returning to Jerusalem, Absalom was unable to enter the palace, so he went to find Joab. Joab, like David, distanced himself from Absalom. In the end, it appears that Absalom, running out of patience in his wrath, set Joab's field on fire. Absalom was beaten by his father, and his anger was a matter of circumstance for Joab. When the field was on fire, Joab appeared quickly and said, "Prince, what are you doing now? Be refuted by reason." However, Absalom raised his voice and began to assert that If he was going to be treated like a ghost, why did he do to be summoned again? When this happened, David tried to summon his son and told him that he would turn a blind eye to Absalom killing his brother, so he too should be quiet. However, 7 years had passed since the incident between Amnon and Tamar, and David and Absalom's father-son relationship was getting worse and worse. David had forgiven Absalom's behavior, but Absalom's feelings toward his father were not resolved. It was Joab who mediated the relationship between the father David and the son Absalom. His feelings for Absalom were not personal or sympathetic, but at the time of Amnon's death, Absalom, who was the only heir to the throne, had been wary of collusion with other factions. At this time, anti-King David forces slowly began to rise within Israel, so there was a possibility that Absalom and King David's disharmony could lead to treachery. So Joab tried to prevent division of the nation. Nevertheless, the rebellion in Absalom's heart was growing. In response to Absalom's request, Joab persuaded David to reconcile with Absalom, and David summoned Absalom and forgave him. But Absalom was already slowly growing crooked. After being forgiven by David, Absalom's first job was to hear the people's complaints on behalf of the king. In ancient society at that time, a trial was started with the elders of the town and proceeded to the king, but the system had not been properly established. So Absalom began stealthily handing over his authority, saying, "My father did not raise a man to fight a lawsuit, so I will bring justice." Looking at the law of this historical period, a trial that reached the king was usually a matter involving influential local officials or aristocrats, so in the process of solving the problem, Absalom was able to secretly gather the forces that followed him. After gaining some power, Absalom made the excuse of going to a sacrifice in David's honor and went down to Hebron, David's old stronghold, and invited all the influential people of the tribe of Judah, including Ahithophel the Gilonite, who was David's scribe, to declare himself king on the spot. In particular, Ahithophel the Gilonite was a prominent contemporary in the tribe of Judah and a person who once worked as a scribe under David. Hearing that he had joined Absalom, more and more people followed him and joined Absalom. Surprisingly, the tribe of Judah, which was David's political base, turned against David and joined Absalom. The reason for this was David's appeasement policy. Originally, the tribe of Judah and the other tribes of Israel were almost estranged from one another. However, as David, who was from the tribe of Judah, became king of Israel, he was forced to keep order. Unlike Joab, who insisted on thorough conquest as a Jewish nationalist, David tried to somehow attract remnants from King Saul, including Mephibosheth, a blood relative of King Saul, and other tribes to rule over all Israel as well as the tribe of Judah. As a result, he naturally neglected the tribe of Judah. It was Absalom who appeared in a situation where the tribe of Judah ought to be more pro-side. The Jewish nationalists with far-right tendencies were dissatisfied with David. For them, Absalom was a good alternative.